My name is Jing. In Chinese, it means quiet. But more to that later. Last weekend, I took my camera and went a long walk through my old village. I filmed empty brick alleyways and the fields where I used to run as a little girl. It brought back a lot of deep memories. In my village in the late 90s, you could tell a baby had been born by the sound of firecrackers. It was the way families shared their joy with the whole neighborhood. But when I was born, everything stayed quiet. When they confirmed I was a girl, the second daughter, any excitement disappeared. There are no firecrackers for me. Just silence. A heavy, disappointed silence. The firecrackers were left untouched in the corner. To understand this, you have to understand the world my parents were living in back then. In the 1980s, China introduced the one-child policy. At the time, the population was growing rapidly, and resources were under real pressure. The policy was meant as a practical way to control growth and make sure everyone could have enough. In rural areas, there was a bit of flexibility. If your first child was a girl, families were sometimes allowed to try again after a few years. Because in traditional villages like mine, there was still a deep hope for a son. Someone to carry on the family name and take care of the parents when they are old. I was supposed to be a boy, but I wasn't. I was another daughter. And with that, my parents' hope for a son in that moment quietly ended. That expectation didn't disappear easily. It lingered in the background of family life. My parents still tried later. And eventually, I did have a younger brother. But that came with its own costs. Half of the whole family's yearly earning, pressure, and years of struggle that shaped our family. My mother was quietly carrying a lot through all of this, living under the same roof as my grandparents. She often faced subtle judgment from the older generation. They naturally favored my male cousin over us girls, in ways that were just part of everyday life. She couldn't change it, but she lived with it, and carried both the pressure and the quiet sadness of it. When it was time for me to start primary school, another problem came up. I couldn't enroll without a herku, an official registered identity. In the eyes of the system, I didn't exist. I still remember my father packing gifts and taking me to see the village chief, who was also a distant relative. It felt less like a meeting and more like a negotiation for my right to go to school. In the end, the gifts worked. The papers were signed, and I finally had a legal identity. I could go to school. I could belong on paper. But something had already settled in me. I had learned that even existence could feel conditional. My name is Jane. In Chinese it means quiet, and that's what I became. Quiet, careful, obedient. I learned early how to survive in that environment. to accept neglect without complaining, to come last without making a sound. I tried to be helpful, to keep my room clean, to never cause trouble. I thought if I was good enough, maybe I would be seen differently. Looking back now, I realize I spent most of my childhood trying to take up less space, hoping that would make things easier for everyone. Growing up, my brother and my sister and I didn't always understand each other. We argued, we clashed, like many siblings do. But in the middle of that environment, something else quietly formed between us. We became each other's support, in ways we didn't know how to say out loud. And now looking back, we are still each other's shoulder, in a way that feels steady and unspoken. Life has taken me far from that little girl. Through education and time, I found my own space. I learned to support myself, to breathe freely, and to realize I'm allowed to be visible. The quiet girl from the countryside slowly built a peaceful, independent life. What fascinates me now is how much things can change in just a few decades. Today, the situation has almost completely reversed. Birth rates are falling, populations are aging, and many village schools are nearly empty. Now the government encourages families to have 2 or even 3 children. The world that shaped my childhood no longer exists in the same way. But when I look back, I don't feel bitterness. My family did what they thought was necessary at the time, under the pressure they were living with. And somehow, we still built a life out of it. Thank you for being here and listening to this part of my story. I'd really love to hear your thoughts in the comments. I'll see you in the next video.